Yo, what's popping? So, moving on to the London Spitfire, sixth in NA with 9 points, an 8-4 record, and a +6 map differential. After missing the kickoff clash, came through in the midseason madness and got themselves a first round exit, really. But it's a success for London for sure, no doubt. So the team being SparkR, Shax, Backbone, Hottie, Poco, Admiral, and Landon, and they all get playtime. So that's always nice to see when you see all your players get playtime. And what's even more interesting about London is they have actually like branched out from their rush. They're not just rush play. Like they're not just a rush one trick team, right? We saw against Shock that they had the ability to play the Winston, to play the ball. We saw it against London. We saw it against Florida or London. They are London. We saw it against Atlanta. We saw it against all these teams in the tournament. That they're not just they can win, and they're a literal like bona fide team off of the rush. Um, and that's huge. It'll be interesting to see how much they incorporate it moving forward with the Junker Queen and with whatever else they add. But I do like this team still maintaining the rush identity. I think that's important. I don't think they should get too beside themselves with playing too much else. But it is the amount that they've played is good. I think maybe you could argue they should have played a little bit more against like Shock, against like Florida. Uh, but it happened. So looking at the actual tournament, right? They beat London. They beat Atlanta 3-1 in the first round. Then they lose to Shock 3-1 in winners round two, and then the first losers round, they get reverse swept by Florida 3-2. They probably should have been able to close out that series. So London is just Atlanta's like kryptonite, right? They're just going to beat Atlanta. Sure. Shock looked very good. Sure. But that Florida loss, Florida had no answers to the first two maps. They looked really bad. They genuinely looked like the worst team in the tournament. But then they turned it around. They started focusing on SparkR. SparkR suddenly wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. He was on Tracer at times. He wasn't able to carry them. And that's when it all crumbles. When SparkR isn't able to actually pull through, like everyone's like, oh, this team's a rush team. Hottie's so good. Everyone's so good. SparkR is the real star of this roster. And that needs to be well known. If SparkR got shut down like he did against like Florida was able to shut down SparkR and win 3 maps in a row. That is something that I think other teams will look to exploit. Other teams better than Florida, because there are teams better than Florida that will look to shut down SparkR, and then London will kind of have no answer because Shax, while he's performing well, he's not performing at the same level as SparkR's performing. And whenever SparkR gets targeted, he's not stepping up. He's not taking that extra space that he has, and he's not popping off with it. I know he can. Shax for sure has that potential. Maybe if he plays a little bit more consistently, gets a bit more playtime, he'll be able to step up and do that. But if they're on a rush and that happens, then it's on more Hotting and Backbone, I guess, to step up and take that extra space that they're getting from SparkR being targeted so heavily as well. So no matter what happens, the rest of the team needs to step up whenever SparkR gets pressured down where he cannot carry, right? I do have faith that they'll be able to do that. It depends on how fast they find a way to do that. But I do think this team should be able to do that quite well as we move forward. So looking at their schedule, in week 15 they play the Florida Mayhem, a rematch. Okay, watch out. And the Boston Uprising. Then week 16 against the Houston Outlaws. Week 17 against Atlanta and Washington. And week 18 against Toronto Defiant. So a pretty solid strength of schedule. It's pretty solid strength of schedule. That means next stage they'll have Shock and Gladiators, but that's whatever. Should be probably all of these are winnable for London. Houston has had a pretty good matchup against London so far this season, so I would expect maybe a Houston win. Just spitballing right now. But other than that, I think London should be able to come back and beat Florida. Well, okay, that's hard to say. Because I think that Florida kind of figured out London in the tournament, so it depends on how well they'll have adapted from that. Because if that tournament game happened right after, I think Florida would have won that one too. But I'm looking at a 5-1 probably for London here. A 5-1, a 4-2 at worst, I would expect. I think they should lose to one of Houston, Florida, Atlanta. Hopefully, not anyone else. Maybe Toronto gets a win on them. That'd be a little different though. I kind of doubt it. But yeah, it's a pretty good schedule for London, and they should look to be a pretty strong team again and get some more wins. I have no doubt this team will be in the summer showdown. I don't know how they wouldn't be, but hopefully they work on what happens if SparkR gets shut down, and hopefully they continue to keep that Rush identity while maintaining the branching out of the other composition that they're doing. But yeah, so let me know your thoughts on London down below. Like this video if you like it, subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content. I will have I'm going to do the tier list of all the players in the league soon, as well as Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, MVP. That stuff's coming up this week. It's probably a video out in a day or two on starting with probably rookies I'll start with. So watch out for that if you're interested. And yeah, so deuces. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a good one.